Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. The past few months have completely upended my life, and I still don't know if what I did was the right choice. I feel like I'm trapped in a nightmare where every move I make hurts someone I love. But keeping quiet wasn't an option, even if the consequences have left me questioning myself over and over. It was a Saturday afternoon. I'd come home earlier than expected because my plans with friends had fallen through. Normally, I'd let my mom know I was back, but she seemed busy, and honestly, I just wanted to flop on my bed and enjoy some peace and quiet. I figured I'd catch up with her later. So I went upstairs, dropped my bag on the floor, and settled in with my phone, scrolling aimlessly through social media. My mom must have come home not long after I did, and she brought her best friend along. I didn't hear them at first, but eventually, the sound of their voices drifted up the staircase. At first, I wasn't paying attention. It sounded like typical gossip, discussing work drama, mutual friends, that kind of thing. But then, out of the blue, her friend made a comment that caught my attention. "I still can't believe how much OP looks like Adam, my father's cousin," she said, laughing a little, as though it was some kind of inside joke. Honestly, I'm surprised no one ever noticed. I froze mid-scroll. What? I had never even thought about my dad's cousin. He wasn't someone we talked about much, especially since he passed away in a car accident a few years ago. I could vaguely remember him from family gatherings when I was younger, but to hear someone suggest I resembled him? That wasn't something I had ever considered. And then my mom spoke. "Well," she began hesitantly, "I've always had my doubts about who, my name's father really is. I mean, I've never been completely certain. I guess we will never know now since Adam is gone. Also, Adam and my husband are family, so it's normal for OP to look like Adam, as my mother-in-law also had the same family nose." I don't even know how to describe the feeling that washed over me in that moment. Shock, confusion, disbelief. It all hit me at once. My mom wasn't sure if my dad was really my dad. I felt like my entire world was tilting, like I was standing on unstable ground that could collapse at any moment. Her friend's voice came again. "Are you serious? You've never discussed it with Adam?" "No," my mom said. "I've kept it to myself all these years. I mean, what was I supposed to do? I didn't want to blow everything up." They went on talking, but I barely heard them. My mind was racing, trying to process what I'd just heard. Could it really be true? Did my mom really think my dad might not be my biological father? And if that was the case, it means she was cheating on my dad with his own cousin? When they finally left, I sat on my bed for what felt like hours, just staring at the wall. I didn't know what to do. Should I confront her? Should I tell my dad? Or should I just keep it to myself, like she had apparently done all these years? Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never heard anything at all, but another part of me felt like I had a right to know the truth. This wasn't just some family secret. It was my life, my identity. Eventually, I decided I couldn't keep it to myself. I needed to know. So I went to my dad and told him everything I'd overheard. I braced myself for his reaction. He thanked me for telling him and said he'd look into it. My dad didn't waste any time. He ordered a DNA test, and when the results came back, they confirmed what my mom had never wanted to admit. He wasn't my biological father. My dad told me this gently, but even so, the words hit hard. Part of me had prepared for this possibility, but having it confirmed was another matter entirely. He reassured me that it didn't change anything between us, that he still saw me as his daughter. He said he loved me and always would. Despite his comforting words, I couldn't shake the feeling of loss. The man I had always thought was my father wasn't biologically connected to me, and the woman I had trusted to be honest and open had kept this secret for so long. When my dad confronted my mom, the truth finally came out. She admitted that she had known there was a chance he wasn't my father. She hadn't wanted to know for sure, and once my dad's cousin passed away, she thought the secret would stay buried. But now that it was out, my dad felt betrayed. He told her he couldn't stay in a marriage built on a lie. He filed for divorce and told her to move out. through all of this, my dad remained supportive of me. He told me over and over that I was still his daughter in every way that mattered. He never blamed me for what happened. But my mom's reaction was a different story. When she left the house, she directed all of her anger at me. She accused me of meddling in adult matters, saying I had no right to get involved. She blamed me for everything that had gone wrong. She said I had destroyed her life, and then she said something that cut me deeper than anything else. She told me she wished I had never been born. Those words lingered long after she was gone. Even though I was furious at her for lying, for keeping such a monumental secret, hearing her say that was devastating. I hadn't just lost the family I thought I had also lost my mother's love and acceptance. I haven't spoken to her since. She's reached out a few times, mostly angry messages blaming me for her situation. I've ignored them, too hurt and confused to respond. My dad and I have tried to move forward, but it's hard. Every time I think about what happened, I find myself questioning if I did the right thing. Should I have stayed silent and let the past remain hidden? Or did I have a right to the truth, even if it meant losing everything I thought I knew? OP is not the a-hole at all. She had every right to know the truth about something that directly affects her identity. The fact that OP's mom kept such a massive secret for so long, and then lashed out at OP when the truth came out, shows that she wasn't prepared to deal with the consequences of her choices. It's not OP's fault that she made those decisions, and it's not OP's fault that OP's dad decided to confront her and kick her out. Honestly, it sounds like OP's dad is an amazing dad for standing by OP and reaffirming that OP is still his daughter, no matter what a DNA test says. OP shouldn't feel guilty for seeking clarity. OP's mom's anger is misplaced, and she needs to own up to her actions instead of blaming OP. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I can't imagine how painful it must have been to hear all of that, and then to find out that the dad you grew up with isn't your biological father. That's a huge emotional bombshell, and you shouldn't blame yourself for how you handled it. If anything, you showed a lot of courage in being honest about what you overheard and going to your dad. It sounds like he handled it with grace and understanding, and it's clear he loves you deeply. Your mom's response, on the other hand, was completely out of line. She had the power to address this years ago and chose not to. And now she's trying to shift all the blame onto you. That's not fair. You were put in a difficult position, and you made the best decision you could. Don't let her hurtful words make you second-guess yourself. First of all, I'm sorry you had to go through this. Finding out something that shakes the foundation of your family is incredibly difficult. You did nothing wrong by telling your dad what you overheard. You weren't trying to hurt anyone. You just needed to know the truth. Your mom chose to keep this secret for years, and it's unfair of her to turn around and blame you when it finally came to light. Her reaction, calling you names, saying she wishes you weren't born, is completely unacceptable. It sounds like she's deflecting her guilt onto you rather than taking responsibility for her actions. I'm really glad your dad has stood by you and made it clear that he still loves you as his daughter. That says a lot about his character and how much he values you. I hope you can find peace in that, and take comfort in knowing that you're not to blame for this mess. I can't imagine the shock and betrayal you must have felt hearing that conversation. It's so unfair that your mom put you in that position by keeping such a monumental secret, and then acted like it was your fault when the truth came out. You didn't create this situation. You simply uncovered something that had been hidden for too long. It's honestly amazing how your dad responded. It sounds like he truly loves you unconditionally, and that kind of support is invaluable. I hope you can hold on to that and remind yourself that you're not responsible for your mom's poor choices. She's lashing out because she knows she's been caught, and while her words were hurtful and cruel, they don't reflect on you. You were just seeking the truth, and that's never something you should feel guilty for.
Growing up, I was very close to my mom and two sisters, and then I met my wife and we began having issues. My mom and my wife clashed, but they've moved past it. My mom is now civil with my wife and just keeps a lot of distance because that's how she prefers it. My mom has admitted it's just her personality type and not really anything she did. I have an okay relationship with my mom and see her maybe once every other month for lunch. Beyond that, no real interaction, and she doesn't know my kids well. She comes to our house for the occasional big event, and I'd say my mom and wife are cool with each other. My mom was never the overbearing type or the woman who made her life all about her kids, so she's handled it okay. But my sisters are devastated and super jealous. They are super upset with my wife and feel she destroyed the family just because my mom decided on her own she doesn't want much to do with me. My youngest sister is getting married and wanted me to walk her down the aisle, but didn't want my wife in any family pictures. I'm not talking about doing some with just family and some with in-laws. She didn't want her in any, so I declined to walk her down the aisle and she uninvited me. My mom asked her to reconsider and she said no. My issue is my mom is paying for it, and I feel it's wrong that she's paying for something which excludes one of her kids and is so hurtful. I told my mom she needs to rescind her offer to pay if she actually cares about me. My mom told me to duck myself, like that's literally what she told me. Now no one is talking, and I told my mom I won't be meeting her for lunch anymore if she pays. Edit. For the people asking if it's just about clashing personalities, my mom finds my wife extremely annoying and has very little patience for people she doesn't like. My sisters blame my wife for the family rift for not encouraging me to see my mom without her. My sisters are also jealous because they are too attached to me. You're the a-hole. You have no right to tell your mom that she can't treat her daughter on her wedding day, or in fact any day. I think that is the most entitled thing I've read on here for a while. Edit. Also, don't forget you uninvited yourself. Your sister is an a-hole too. Can't miss that out. You're the a-hole. I understand you wanting to take a stand for your wife and not being comfortable with walking your sister down the aisle. But that gives you no right at all to demand your mom no longer pay for the wedding. I'm honestly not surprised she told you to duck yourself. You're the a-hole. You don't get to control how your mother chooses to spend her money. With the information you've given, you are missing a huge piece of the puzzle. Without that, your sister sounds like the a-hole for excluding your wife from family photos. But we don't know anything about why your family doesn't like your wife or how you've handled that situation. She may be 100% in the right for excluding her. Who knows? You gave us almost no info. But from what you did give us, it sounds like you're the a-hole for trying to control what your mother does for her own children. Everyone sucks here. Your wife, how did she manage to piss off everyone? You, how are you going to tell your mom what to do? Your sister can't chill for one day, and your mom can't try to mend this situation? Everyone sucks. Seriously, what is up with your wife that she can't even be in photos? I do Photoshop edits, and the only time people want other people removed from photos is when they did something very bad. Your wife must be an S-tier a-hole. My wife didn't do anything. She and my mom simply don't like each other, and my sisters took sides. My mom raised them that they don't have to do anything they don't want to do regardless of social norms. They are also jealous of not being my priority anymore, which is why they are so venomous towards her. My mom at least doesn't want to be my priority and gets that's unhealthy. We've been married for 10 years and things have been rough for the past 3. My husband made changes in his life. He got a new job and started to make more money. He also became much more responsible with his money and found ways to make more income. I was proud of him. I know how hard he fought to get this job and how much he looked forward to getting it. The thing is, he also became incredibly cheap, especially with me. He made savings, and the worst part is that he refused to tell me how much money he had saved. I still have no idea. Despite how cheap he became, he spent a lot of money on hair transplant. He got great results and swore to me that's what he was saving money for, but he kept his finances a secret from me. He also became sort of a fitness fanatic and lost a lot of weight, which is great for him. We met some friends of mine after the transplant and the weight loss, and they didn't even recognize him. But considering he was all the time either at his job or at the gym, we barely spent any time together. The last straw was this list I found on his cabinet, written by him. It said, "Life Goals." The list went on with several career-related stuff, but also travel to different countries, improve his relationship with his parents, etc. What killed me was when I read "supportive wife." Everything I wrote about my husband so far felt like a long preparation to leave me for another woman. Not just that, he had originally written "attractive wife." He crossed that, but I could still read it. He also wrote he wanted children. We compromised on being a dink couple. That was his idea. I confronted him when he got home. First, he was defensive. He apologized for writing "attractive wife" on the list and said it was immature, but when he started defending why I wasn't supportive, it became a fight. He snapped at me and yelled he was sick of being mediocre and called me mediocre. I cried. He tried to apologize, but the damage was done. We separated and started the divorce. Maybe I'm delusional, but I always thought we were happy and that he liked the life we shared. When I learned he wanted more, I supported him, but turns out he doesn't want more with me. He left a week ago. For a while, I thought I was at peace. But I think if he knocked on the door and said he wants to stay married, I'd say yes in a heartbeat. I don't know what to do besides accept the inevitable. He's not unhappy with you. He's unhappy with himself. It's why he's changing everything about himself. Change isn't bad. In fact, it's a huge opportunity for growth. But when it's done like this, he's discarding you because he sees you as an accessory, not as a partner. You're a reminder of his old mediocre life, the life he's been slowly shedding. If he valued you, he'd be working on your relationship as he's intended to work on the relationship with his parents. But he thinks he's due an upgrade. You're the last piece of his old life, and he doesn't recognize that you were there when he was balding and fat. You valued him even when he didn't value himself. You deserve better than a shallow and selfish man. Let him go. Grieve. Heal. There's better for you out there. Oh, and make sure your lawyer hires a forensic accountant. Tell them he's been hiding money. You're married. It's not his money or his savings. They're considered a marital asset. Don't take them back. Anyone who would have the nerve to call another person mediocre, especially their own wife, is a self-righteous piece of crap. You don't want to be married to someone like that. I would look at this like a blessing. He showed his true colors. Hire a lawyer and a private eye. This guy has his exit strategy going already. Wouldn't be surprised if he is moving money around so you don't get anything in divorce. My younger sister was 9 when I married my husband, and I'm pretty sure she's had a crush on him since. Over the last 7 years, she's completely romanticized our relationship to the point where she constantly makes comments about hoping to marry someone like him, even though she barely knows him, and I've told her repeatedly that life isn't just happy social media pictures. I'd been staying with my mom and stepdad for the last month, and in that time, all my sister wants to do is talk about my husband. He's the last person I want to talk about right now, so hearing about how wonderful and perfect he is constantly has been making me angry. Yesterday, I finally snapped at her when her and some of my younger cousins were talking about boys, and my sister brought up my husband. She was saying how she wished her parents knew someone like my husband so she could meet her Prince Charming too. For context, I met my husband through my dad. When she said this, I snapped at her that my husband wasn't Prince Charming. My sister went quiet and quickly left the room. I did feel bad and tried to talk to her, but she locked her door and wouldn't let me in. She since told her parents and my husband. My mom told me while she understood why I said it, I shouldn't have shattered my sister's fantasy just because mine has been, and that the version of my husband my sister thinks is real is the one she wants to marry, not the reality. She also said I embarrassed my sister in front of our cousins, and that's why she doesn't want to speak to me. My husband has been sending me condescending texts about how he disagreed, since he was very charming, and saying I used to be sweet. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Sister is 16, plenty old enough to understand that her behavior is inappropriate, even if she doesn't know what your relationship is going through, and I'm assuming it's going through something, as you've been at your parents for a month and your husband is the last person you want to hear about. She's old enough to know that constantly gushing about someone else's significant other is weird and cringe. Not the a-hole. I'm assuming you're living with your mom because trouble at home. Your sis is 16. Old enough to connect the dots and stop living in a fantasy. Yeah, the find your Prince Charming dream is cute at age 9. Should you have been more gentle in popping that bubble? Maybe. But again, she's old enough to learn the dangers of seeking a Prince Charming. Not the a-hole. He's your husband. You're in the best position to determine whether or not he's Prince Charming or not. And your sister is old enough to hear the truth. And you're within your rights to get annoyed at how she's placed him on a pedestal when clearly you don't agree with her assessment of him. If things were so great with him, you probably wouldn't be moved in with your mom right now. My wife always hosts Thanksgiving, and she takes it very seriously. The past 2 years, my mom has come with her boyfriend, now fiancé, Leo. I don't know Leo too well as he doesn't really engage, but the first year my mom came in with a huge bag and was acting really weird and secretive. When we sat down to eat, I noticed that Leo's food looked slightly different from ours. I saw my wife giving it funny looks as well, and I asked. At first, they tried to lie. Then my mom admitted that she had snuck Leo food from home. I didn't let it go and wanted an answer. She finally admitted that he hates our food, and she wanted him to enjoy the holiday. I was pissed, but waited to take her aside. She was told to never do that again. This year, she brought Leo again. Neither ate much, and they only stayed a little over an hour. When I confronted my mom, she admitted that she was going home to have another dinner with Leo and some friends, because she feels so guilty knowing he is willing to spend his whole holiday doing something that makes him miserable for her sake. My wife called her a pick-me. My mom didn't know what that was, so that was an interesting conversation. My mom finally admitted Leo grew up very poor, and that is why he hates our food so much, because it reminds him of his mother's cooking. I don't even know what the duck that meant, but I could see my wife's blood was boiling, so I told my mom she isn't allowed to come back with Leo. She said who spends the holidays without their partner, but I said she had to choose between the two of us. I ended up banning her, and she called me an a-hole, and the whole family is furious with me. They say I'm being irrational and should just ignore it because it makes her really happy. Oh, we are also uninvited from the wedding. You're the a-hole. If your only problem with Leo is that he will not eat your food, then let him eat the food he brings. Thanksgiving is not about forcing people to eat your food. Lots of people spend a holiday in two places, and lots of people are picky eaters. You and your wife are making a mountain out of a molehill. So someone doesn't care for your wife's cooking. Hardly the end of the world. However, if you want to ban your mother from your home and holidays for such a ridiculous reason, it is your business. But you're the a-hole for taking such an extreme measure because your wife got butthurt because they think she's a lousy cook. You're the a-hole, man. I know it sucks that your wife's cooking doesn't feel appreciated, but come on. Sure, they could have brought it up and said they wanted to bring in their own food, so you'd know ahead of schedule. Yet all they did was do their best not to inconvenience you. They didn't ask you to buy anything specific for Leo, didn't ask you to be his personal chef for his own meal, didn't even bring it up to the family. They tried to be discreet by bringing him his own food, tried to just eat less of something he didn't enjoy eating, so he could go meet with some others who may matter to your mom and to Leo for food. You and your wife blew it up to this. You felt like the meals you provided weren't good enough, so you lashed out, hurt, kind of pitiful. Before our son was born, my boyfriend and I broke off our engagement. We didn't have a good relationship for the majority of our son's life, so he rarely saw us together. For that reason, we decided to slowly get our son used to seeing us together before we explained that we were a couple and before we decided to live together. Usually, my boyfriend takes our son to visit his family a few times a year. I went with him on their latest trip. My boyfriend and son both have their own rooms at his parents' house, so my son was confused about where I would sleep. My boyfriend's family know our son doesn't know that we're dating and that he can get jealous and upset over sharing us with each other. Yet, my boyfriend's family decided to tell him I was going to sleep in the same bed as his dad and that I was his daddy's girlfriend when he was asked where I was going to sleep. My son is 4, so he took it to mean I wasn't his mommy anymore if I was his daddy's girlfriend. So he started crying hysterically. After they told me what happened, I was angry because we had already explained the situation to them. I was so angry that I ended up arguing with them and threatened to leave early with my son. My boyfriend's sister kept trying to justify it since she was the one who actually told him I was his dad's girlfriend, which just made me angrier. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You and your weird games. You're a couple and you have a son together. Stop messing this kid around. Man alive, get over yourself. You are his father's girlfriend. You are his son's mother. These things are not mutually exclusive. You should have shared an age-appropriate message with him before you went to boyfriend's parents for a visit. You and your significant other created this mess, not your boyfriend's sister. Basically, OP, you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. It's not your boyfriend's family's fault that a 4-year-old is so literal-minded that he didn't realize someone can be two things at once. If you and your boyfriend had told your son the truth, this problem wouldn't have happened. Edited to add, when the kid asked, "Where's mommy going to sleep?" what did you want the family to answer? If you wanted to keep a secret from your kid, you should have avoided a situation where the question was going to come up.